Hunting for that magical genie with piles of cash? Join Candace and her guests as they uncover financial secrets, have a laugh at past mistakes, and savor financial rebounds. Thank you for listening. Let's dive in and do something today that your future self will thank you for.
Welcome to the Money Flow Genie podcast. I'm trying really hard to keep a straight face because Julie and Peterson and I have been chatting just before and we've been in hysterics. So I hope we're able to bring this laughter into this podcast because it's most definitely a joy to have you on, Julie. Thank you so much for joining the podcast, first of all. And I'll tell people about you in a second, but welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to
This
see
is
how
great.
this ends up.
That's right. That's right. I met Julie through the Zoom at 8 meetup that she has. But let me tell you who she is and why she has this meetup. This is the greatest introduction I think I've ever done. And she is what we can, she is the first lady of lending. Isn't that fabulous? In real estate, she has 33 years of real estate transaction experience. That in itself, right there, this is going to be a really knowledgeable podcast episode. She helps people in debt advising and strategic consulting. She's a GP, which is a general partner and a limited partner in commercial and retail real estate. She has, for the past 5 years, she started the Zoom at 8, which is a meetup, a networking with a platform that's live. And if you just have to attend it, I have to say, and all of this stuff will be in the show notes for people to find out how to join up, which is free, by the way. And it's a platform where industry professionals come in and we just all network to interact and learn. And it is really, truly a learning platform. I have to say, if you really want to learn about the multifamily world and this industry, that is definitely a meetup you want to be on because you are not frowned upon if you're new. In fact, you're brought out into the spotlight, so you can't hide in that room.
No,
Julie won't let you. So welcome,
can't
Julie.
hide. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited. I always like to spend time on getting to know people, and I think that's where a lot of my strengths are, is getting to building relationships. And when I met you, it was in Zoom at 8, then we met at the Warrior program. And I had a deal, and you just went right at it. You're like, okay, let me figure this out. And I just loved your energy and your spirit. And our relationship has grown since that. And I just cherish it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. So I want to dive into a little bit about you. First of all, we start the podcast out with the self-praise showcase. And that is we hold for you and any listeners that is you're really proud of yourself for. It could be big or small, that we just want to hold that space with you because we're not really taught to brag or boast about ourselves. And that's got to change. So I want to start it off every podcast with that for our guests to share about that. So the floor is yours to praise about what you're proud about yourself.
Yeah, I know when you asked me that question, the first thing that came up was I'm a mom of 4 kids, and we had 4 kids in 5 years. And no doubt it was a challenge from I remember having 3 babies in diapers, and my mother-in-law sitting on the couch watching me change 3 diapers at a time said, "Hang in there. It will get easier. Don't worry." And I'm like, this is a long game and it can't get any longer. I'm in the throes of this. But I left when I was 18 from my home and I said, I'm going to go take on the world. I met my husband who also left at 18 and said, I'm going to be a world champion freestyle rider. And he did. His mother said, only one person gets to do that. And he goes, yeah, it's going to be me. So our paths were really very similar. We're going to take on the world. And having these 4 kids, we really instilled a lot of these same values of, hey, we're going to give you all of the support that you need, and we want you to fly. We want you to go. When you get to 18, we want you to see the world. We want you to be the true person that you want to be. And all of them have gone, And I've got a pilot, I've got a data analytics analyst, project manager. I've got another person who's local. Those two guys live in other states. And then my baby, who is 19, now is in college over in Michigan. They've all left me. I'm in California, which is funny because you'd think everybody would want to stay in California, but they have all migrated back to the Midwest where I'm from. And they like all of the cold weather and the seasons. And I can't be more proud of being able to share my values, my systems, my thoughts with these cherished loved ones that I've brought up. But I also feel so accomplished that they're now off living their lives. They're off my payroll. And I'm just proud of what my husband and I have put together.
Wow. That I have to say, that is really a beautiful showcase to hold. When you think about it, parenting is about teaching the little ones how to live and how to be on their own.
Mhm.
And sometimes it can appear, if you're ever around a small child, particularly a 2-year-old, when they learn how to say no, they're trying to exert their independence, and that's what you want to nourish. That's what you want to let that little tiny thing evolve into the little character that they want to be. And what I just want to commend you on letting your children be who they want to be and making those choices, because as we move through life, we know that when we make a choice, "Ooh, I like that or I don't like that." How do you know what you are interested in unless you're allowed to live it? You don't know if you're riding a bicycle until you get on and feel what that's like without training wheels and having your own balance. You may say, this is okay. I understand how to do it, but I'm not really into this, and let it go. But you don't know that until you do it. And so, what a cool space. First of all, that time is so cool in life to be a young adult. I'm on my own. I'm my own boss. You are not the boss of me, kind of.
I really thought it was the years are short, right? When two of them in 2019 drove away, my husband and I looked at each other and said, "How did we get here?" It went so fast. As I said, we thought it was going to take forever. And then to leave, we just found ourselves so sad. But the reality of it is that we were successful. We launched our little birdies, and now they have completed their studies. They've got good jobs. I feel successful in that way. I'm
That's
proud of
fantastic.
it. I found myself at times saying, "This is the hardest thing I've ever done." I stayed home for quite some time while I managed our own properties, and that was challenging in itself. You don't get to have all of the vacations and all the nice clothes, but we brought up these great people, and I can look back and say that was the most valuable thing that I could have given to them, and a gift that I could have allowed them to be part of. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's the memories and of the experiences that we have, which is what we tell stories about. It's not here. Let me just show you a picture of the red car I own. Basically, the conversation stops there. Yes, it's red. It's a little more maroon. Yeah, I like that. Not metallic though. It's experience. It's experience.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so bringing money around into that. 4 kids, 4 mouths. Holy cow, how many refrigerators?
Yeah, we have a full refrigerator and we have a full freezer in our home. It's gotten a lot more empty that they're all gone. And again, that's an accomplishment. I don't have to go to the store every day. I don't have to go through 4 gallons of milk a week. Life is easier now, and I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor.
Yeah, congratulations. Sometimes I hear people feeling guilty. They don't know what to do with themselves with the empty nest. It's
I think
yeah,
there's some truth to that too.
yeah,
It's a process for
hmm
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate raising children? I don't, it's expensive. How did you even get to be the first lady of
First lady of
Lindsay?
lending, yeah.
Yes.
Here's my journey. So when I was 14, living in Chicago, I said, I want to get the heck out of here. When I'm 18, I want to race bicycles. I was in the bicycle industry for a while. And I wanted to pay for my own college, again, being independent, not wanting to have any ties to anybody that I owed any money to. I wanted to be in control of my destiny. And I said, I want to be in real estate. I don't want to pay a landlord. So I want to make that time frame very short. So I left Chicago when I was 18 to race bicycles and work for a bicycle manufacturer in LA. I became the first lady of bicycles, to be quite honest. It was an industry full of men, and I became the top producer in LA for this bicycle company. We did bikes and parts and accessories. And I was in the top market and performed well. And the riots came. Actually, first I bought a house when I was 22 years old in Los Angeles, 250,000, 22 years old. And I said, I'm not going to, this is going to be the shortest time that I'm going to be paying. So I paid a landlord for 4 years, bought my own house. Then the riots came in Los Angeles, and all my business, a lot of my business owners got looted. And so first of all, my property that I owned went from 250 to about 179, 169 overnight. And my business that I was making over 100,000, and at that time was 33, 35 years ago, was a lot of money for a single woman. It went down very quickly. And I said, hey, I need to get out. I need to go find another job. There was an opening with the same company up in the Bay Area. So I called up a friend and I said, hey, would you like to buy my house? He says, I only have $4,000. And I said, I'll take that and you pay the mortgage. So for 12 years, he made payments. I never worried about it. He owned the house. I just had to make sure that nothing hit my credit. And he ended up refinancing it, and he just sold it. Business as everything. I call my company is Dancing Investments, because investments go up and down. Our interest rates go up and down. And this guy bought this house for $4,000, valued at 179. Ended up selling it around 700, but I refinanced. But long story short, that's what kicked me off. I had a second mortgage that I had to pay. And a lot of people said, oh, don't pay it. It was a risk they took giving you a second loan. And I said, no, I have karma. I want to make sure I come up settled with this person. So I had to pay $40,000 for not owning the house that was mine. And then we bought a house. I met my husband, bought a house up in the Bay Area and doubled our money there. And that's really, that experience was, okay, I failed my first time, but I doubled our money up in the Bay Area, moved all my money over to Chicago. We moved to Chicago, started having kids, and started buying more and more assets. We started with single family, and then we got to the multifamily 5, and then ended up at 20. And a lot of the lenders were like, just go away. You need a team. And I said, no, I look like Edna Mode from, a lot of people think I look like Edna Mode from The Incredibles. And they said, Edna Mode says, no capes. I was trying to wear the cape. I can do everything. And these lenders were like, that's it. We are not giving you any more money. You cannot scale your business. And I said, okay. At that point, I said, I need to find partners. I really figured it out and I got into lending because I had done so many transactions. I really knew more about the real estate and the market and the lending portion of it than a lot of my lenders and real estate agents. So I jumped into mortgages and ended up finding a team. And the team took me a while. It took me a good 4 years to put together my team. And, even so, finding a team is challenging, and we can talk about that. But I sold all of my single family, sold my 20-unit building, and went into limited partnerships. And again, that was finding the right people. I had some guidance along the way of who would be a good people to invest in. We've gone full cycle on quite a few deals, but I was really missing the control. I had 4 kids. I controlled that. I owned my own assets. I controlled that. And being a limited partner, you only get a little bit of the information. You just get a little bit on a monthly or quarterly basis. I was used to seeing my assets every day, seeing the P&L, having relationships with my tenants, and I really missed that. So that's when I went into general partnerships and created these relationships with my partners. So I've been in the general partnership side of things for about 5 years. And I bring a little bit different relationship and understanding and development to a transaction that I'm providing the debt for because I'm in the trenches already as a general partner. So I bring that experience, and to new people that are getting into this, there's a lot of value. A lot of I can help them cross their T's and dot their I's that no one else is going to tell them. I can bring relationships to the transaction. I can bring sponsorships. I can bring capital raising. I can bring investors. And most mortgage lenders don't have that experience. I think I'm special in that way. As I've been in this for about 11 years doing the lending, we've seen a lot more women coming on board. But in the early years, I was one of very few in the lending space. So I'm proud to say I'm still here and building relationships. And Zoom at 8 has been a critical piece for me in developing those relationships and helping people along the way create their position in this world.
Just like you did with your kids, I feel like you do that with particularly the new people that are coming in that don't have any experience. You gave me the opportunity to be a part of the deal that we're in Houston, and which I'm very grateful for that. And I think the relationships and the depths of which you go to engage with someone, it's not superficial at all. You really genuinely care and you enjoy being around the people. That's why you were successful with what you were doing in the bicycle industry.
Yeah.
And why at anything that you do, it's all about human interaction. And particularly when you start to go into the commercial space of real estate, it is a team sport. And you do have to have interactions and you have to talk, whether you want to or not, about difficult situations or
Yes.
talk about when things are going great, everybody's happy. And you're right. I'm in a limited partnership that I hear from maybe every quarter, and I have to reach out to them and see what's going on and get a little reminder of that. I'm like you, I've been an entrepreneur for 32 years. I'm used to being in control. So
Yeah.
I'm okay. I actually say I enjoy being a limited partner because I don't have that weight on my shoulder to be responsible. Yet it's a part of me. I want to get in there and know what's going on as well. That's like a personal struggle that I have with that. But you really touched on something about lending. And one of the reasons why, not only just because you're a great person, I really wanted to have you on the podcast because you just have so much to offer on a multitude of topics. But when it comes to lending, being in business for 32 years, there's all sorts of different types of getting lending on residential, getting lending on commercial property, getting a line of credit, using whole life, using index universal life. There's so many types of things that you can, and avenues out there to get money. But I will say it's really interesting. Everybody has a little twist that they will pitch something to a person to get them to use a particular type of lending. I don't know. What is it? Lending. What is the word I'm looking for? Vehicle. Yes. The lending vehicle. Can you touch on that a little bit? Because I was just given some information and I'll double check with you here just to test it out. So for instance, I was looking into getting a equity line of credit on my house, my personal residence. And it was through a lending platform that I already used. They had this other network or something that connected you up. I was like, oh, what's the hurt to fill out this, just to talk to someone in the area? And he was telling me that basically the HELOC that I'm getting, unless there's another vehicle that I'm not familiar with that's very similar, that if I were to say, let's just say $100,000, that money is immediately thrown into my account and I have to start paying interest on it. And that paying it back is not necessarily what I could do immediately. Like I'd never heard of that. A line of credit, you utilize it if you need to, but you do need to use it. if you don't use it, then they eventually will close it because the purpose is to make money. But you don't have to use the whole thing.
Yeah, it depends on the bank, and
Mhm.
especially this is a residential example. I'm
Mhm.
in commercial. Just some of the things that I've been involved in, and yeah, HELOCs can either be the whole line of credit you start paying, or you only pay like a bridge loan where you only pay on the money that you use, and you start paying it from the time you execute a draw, let's say. You
Mhm.
write a check for 30,000, you start making payments on that. So it just depends. But I think there are a lot of different products out there. Every bank is different. So it would depend on what that platform is offering
Mhm.
to figure out what that looks like. But
That's really interesting because I didn't know that, like you hear about certain loans that everyone gets. That is the first time I've heard. So that it really is dependent upon the bank that's providing the lending and their rules. Obviously, they have the government regulations they have to stand by, but they can also set their own rules for the type of vehicle that they're offering.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that is something that's new to me, even though I've been in this industry for a little bit, not on your end, but that's really interesting.
Yeah. So if we talk about, there's a bunch of different vehicles. So there's bank financing, there's bridge financing. So bridging from an unstabilized asset to a stabilized, where you would go and sell it or you refinance out of that bridge. There's agency, which is your Fannie and Freddie, and that is for stabilized assets. And then there's CMBS, there's Life Co, Life Company asset vehicles. But when we talk about bank, we're talking about local bank, credit unions, regional banks, and national banks. There's all different kinds under the sun. Some will offer 15-year amortization, some will go 30, most will go 25. And these are balloon payments. So you're going to typically at a bank, you're going to get a 5-year loan. And it might offer you 10 years, but at 5 years, it's going to recast itself for what the rate is on that day it expires or
Mhm.
matures. We look at as a whole, 5-year, 25-year AM, about 75% loan to value is what the proceeds, how much money I'm going to give you. So those are high level. But if you drill down, you might be able to get somebody that has a 15-year. So every bank is different. And here's the thing, banks have to have deposits in order to lend. And right now, banks have a lot of office on their books. And office is doing terrible since COVID because everybody can work out of their homes or work at the office one day a week. And these businesses are losing money and they're not being able to pay their mortgage on the office. So these banks that people are trying to get loans for are saying, hey, I'll give you a loan, but I need you to come in and bring 10 to 15% of the loan amount and put that in my bank. I know that you now have a personal relationship with your business, with my bank. And a lot of people say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to bring that extra money. I want to deploy my capital into other assets or asset classes. So bank can be it can be helpful. It just depends on what the business plan is to make sure that we can execute on what you're trying to achieve. Now, when you go to a bridge loan, that's going to be a short term, interest only. We're going to, across the board, you're going to have a draw, a lump sum of money. And most banks will say, all right, I'm going to give this money to you. You can draw when you need it. But after a certain period of time, if you don't use that bucket of money, I'm going to start charging you. And that's what's happened over the last 2, 3 years. A lot of people took out bridge loans and they couldn't execute their business plan. And now they have to pay the bank for the mortgage that they might not be able to pay. And they need to pay for that CapEx budget that they never executed. That money is just sitting in the bank. Rents have gone down, expenses have gone up, inflationary environment we're in. So a lot of these bridge deals that were done are really struggling. And it's not necessarily because of the operator. Our deal that we are on, we've got an excellent operator, been in business for 45 years. Can't get any better than that. So it really is a lot of folks jumped in the last 2, 3 years to get into multifamily. And now with interest rates staying as high, historically, we've never seen it stay this high for this long. So we're all hoping that the Fed funds will drop their rates over the next couple months and give some relief to these operators. And then we go to agency, which is your Fannie and Freddie loans. They do need you to qualify as an operator. So if you're thinking about becoming a general partner, these are the people that you're looking for. Somebody who has experience in multifamily. This is the partners that I wasn't willing to get because I can do this myself. But you need to have people that have at least 2 years of owning assets in multifamily. That's 5 or more. They have to have net worth greater than the loan amount, equal to or greater than the loan amount. So if you're taking out a $10 million deal, you have to have 10 million in net worth. Do you have that, Candace?
Not 10 million.
I don't either. But there are people out there, you put this team together and everybody pools their net worth. Now you have a solid team. And then the last piece you have is you have to have liquidity, meaning cash in the bank. Now you cannot use your 401k or your IRAs for that. But if you have stocks and bonds or you have an insurance policy that has a cash value, that's, yes, you took a $10 million insurance policy against your loved one, but you don't get to use that as your liquidity. There's a cash value of that insurance policy. It might be $58. It's not much, but there are policies that were purchased a long time ago and there's a cash value and you can use that for the liquidity. Now on a $10 million deal, it's 10%. So that's $1 million. Do you have $1 million?
Not in liquidity.
Neither do I. So these are the people, again, you need to start finding that can help put your team together and bring value to the asset, to the lending, because that's really, your lender is your biggest partner, because we're going to bring anywhere from 60% to 80% of the loan, of the purchase price to the transaction. So you want to find somebody that, again, I'm considered your partner, somebody like and trust that has done this, has execution certainty that I can close. Because these deals, you're putting up a lot of money. We call it earnest money deposits. And it can be $1 million sitting in a escrow account that could be lost if your lender or you cannot execute on that purchase and sale agreement. So you got to be really careful finding the right lender that's going to help you bring it to the close.
Something else that, first of all, I want to go back to, excuse me, so for with the Fannie and Freddie, do you still have to have that liquidity sitting in a bank for the other bank? So that's just a given that has to happen.
Yeah, I would say on banks, they are going to look for liquidity, but not to the same guidelines. Again, banks have their own rules and regulations. You could have a corporation own the bank. You could have a rich person that has a bunch of money. He has his own guidelines. So they're going to look for collateral. And when you work with a bank, that's called a recourse loan. That means we're looking in your shorts to see that you have the right junk, your tax returns, your balance sheets, your statements that can really validate how much you're worth. And if we got into a pickle where there was a default or a shortfall, then I'm going to come after you personally. On the Fannie and Freddie side, it's called non-recourse. And that is you're signing on the loan as a guarantor. But the way that it is underwritten, you're buying a business and your business covering the mortgage, right? It's covering the debt service. So we don't put you up personally for any default that comes. Now, if you do some bad behavior and you're doing a Ponzi scheme or something, you're not taking care of the asset itself, it could flip. We call that bad boy carve outs. It could flip to recourse. And then you're just back a bank loan. When you buy a house, that's a recourse loan. If you have a shortfall, you're going to have to pay that, or you file bankruptcy, which you don't want to do in any case, if at all possible. But even if you have a bankruptcy with the agencies, as long as the story is accurate and correct and we can understand it, Fannie and Freddie will allow you to get a loan.
Now,
Pretty
coming
cool.
into asking for a loan, you're a broker. That would
Yeah.
be the first lady of lending broker. And so with that being said, tell me the benefits. Like a lot of people they think, oh, don't go to a broker because you're going to be paying a fee. But tell me the benefits of hiring someone like you to come in and find a loan if I'm looking for a loan, as opposed to me going to just the local bank and all that I know.
Sure. We're specialists, right? This is what we do all day. You don't do this all day. So you might be providing some information that could be critical to the success or failure of it. So as a broker, we guide you as the investor to provide what we want to provide accurately to the lender. We don't want to hold back information, but we want to make sure that we're crafting it correctly. But at the end of the day, this is a relationship business. And we have excellent relationships nationwide with brokerage firms. And by that brokerage, I'm saying investment sales folks. So when you've got 50 people walking through an apartment complex and Best and Final has 20 people, and I'm bringing 2 or 3 of them to the Best and Final out of the rest of them, that broker, and I've got the head relationship with that broker, they're going to put our people up to the Best and Final, because sometimes the Best and Final takes several iterations of it and there's a elimination. But at the end of the day, the broker, the investment salesperson, is all about their pocketbook, closing this deal. And if they know you're working with a broker who has 38 years, Old Capital has been in business for 38 years. We've closed over 8,000 loans. We have a track record. And so when you put them on each of these and you figure out who's going to close and get them paid, a lot of people choose our investors, our people, our LCs to bring them to the top, because they know that they will close. So that's one thing. We also have relationships with other vendors that are really important, like insurance brokers, like due diligence folks that will do the work for you in the front side of the business. Is this the right asset to be buying? We have property management. So there's a lot of value to that. When you go direct to a bank, think about this for a minute. They're only worried about closing that loan. They're not interested in bringing you to other relationships like a broker. That's the value of a broker. And I can go with thousands. I open up my trench coat and I got thousands of banks. If you go to one, you have one opportunity. And if they fail, you could lose. We set it up so if my bank that I put you in front of can't execute, I've got a lot more people to go to. So certainly when we talk about Fannie and Freddie, there's a 1% origination fee. You pay it, whether you use me or you go direct. So I believe as a broker, it just makes the opportunity for success working with a broker much greater than going to one person. Now, what we also see is brokerage firms that also have a capital markets. And think about this investment salesperson says, hey, I want you to use my lender, my in-house lender. So this guy, the investment salesperson, wants to close this loan, close this deal. They're only looking out for their seller. They bring in their bank. The bank is only interested in the seller. So they're going to work together to get that seller what he needs, not necessarily what you need. And in a lot of commercial real estate, you don't have a buyer's representation. you only have a seller's representation. So as a buyer, you're going directly to that seller, and they're looking out for their seller, not for you. So as a mortgage broker, we are working on your behalf. That's very powerful. When it comes to, at the end of the day, you've got somebody who is providing the majority of your money. We have the track record. You're only paying 1%. Now, if you go to a bank or a bridge, then yes, you have an origination fee and you have a broker fee. But again, you don't know what banks to go to, where to go to, what to say. So let the experts hold your hand and do that for you. Again, you're buying a business. Treat it like a business. Have your advisors. You have an attorney. You wouldn't look for the cheapest attorney, would you? When you go get a facelift, do you look for the cheapest surgeon? No, you don't. So you want to have the track record of success. And that's at Old Capital, we do.
That's when I think about it, when you were saying about partners, and we were talking about partnership earlier. You're like a partner, like you said, with the trench coat that has, you open it up and it's all the little, I don't know if the gremlins were bad characters in that movie or not, but you have all these other little mini partners. It's like the Neems, they come flying out.
Yeah.
I knew just from knowing you and talking extensively about lending, but I had no idea the impact that has on the team, because it really is a team sport, this multifamily.
It
And
is.
to have those connections, I know if you don't know the smart question to ask, particularly if you go into a bank on your own,
Yeah. Mhm.
it depends on the representative that they have assigned to you. They're just working for the bank. It's just their job. So if they're like, I've gone in to the bank, my local bank here, thinking, what's a local bank? They know me. I've been here for years. I
Yeah.
start asking them questions. They're glazing over.
Mm.
They're just glazing over. I'm like, what do you mean you don't? What do you, I want to understand. I'm talking to them about loan constants and they're glazing over. And I'm like, you're a bank. You should be able to understand the concept of loan constants, and you're representing the lending department. So it ends up being, instead of me talking with them about having a vehicle that I can use from their bank, we sit there for about 20 minutes where I'm educating them on
Mm.
various things. And then I'm thinking,
Is this
hmm,
who you want to be
is
working
this
with?
who I want to be working with? Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody in lending, I hate to say it, a lot of people they're coin operated. So by that, if you have a deal and they don't see any value, or they don't want to spend time educating you, or they don't want to, it's too risky, they will just either not respond, or they'll just say, yeah, I'm not interested. I'm on the front line. I want all deals. I want to be able to look at them and I want to be able to say, I can find you a solution for this. If I can't, I'm going to tell you up front, this doesn't work, but maybe somebody else can help us. You're not going to get that going direct. And if a bank has to work too hard to put that loan together, they're just going to pass. So, and you could go down, you could be under contract, and these banks have to meet with their committee, and you're thinking you're going to get a loan, and the time is ticking, and then you lose that loan, that lender, and where are you going to go next if you're on your own? It's a scramble. You put yourself at risk.
I will tell you just from my own personal experience in trying to get a home equity, the line of credit with my local bank. I was strategically, because you have to pay attention to your credit score when you're drawing, when you're going to have a payment come through your credit card. You want everything to be at a certain level so that your credit score, and everyone plays this game when you do lending and you use any type of lending, that you want to make sure that you don't have anything to look like that you're desperate for money. You don't have anything showing up on your credit report that you've applied for many loans. And I had just recently refied. So I had to wait for the first time in my life, being self-employed, got the 2.75 on my home. Woo! Always paying really high because of self-employment.
Yeah.
But I had to wait strategically for my credit score, for all the little picks and pings and dings to my credit score to go up. So now I have it at this level, but I know I'm going to be making a vehicle purchase a little further down. but I really needed to, this is the time of frame that I'm going to apply for my HELOC. And then I
Mm,
have to get this vehicle over here. And I don't want to get it before. I needed
yeah.
to have it after. But again, it was the same sort of thing where, like you were saying, it was just like coin operated and the committee. So
Mhm.
the guy that was my representative didn't show up to the committee meeting to represent my loan. They had a question. So then it got postponed to the next month. And so now I'm
Mm.
getting closer to the date that I need to get my truck. And so we're going through this, like, I'm going,
Mhm.
and then I ended up not getting the loan, not because I didn't really qualify. It was, I was like, no, let's not try again. Because he came in, misrepresented me, didn't, which I didn't realize, have all the liquidity that I needed to have, the life insurance policies. He didn't know
Mhm.
what they were.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, that would have been just like the total game changer because I don't take my money personally and just leave it sitting in a bank account. I use my dollar twice and I put it through and feed it through my whole life insurance policies.
Mhm.
None of that was in any of my data. So there was like all of this information that was missed because of the representative that worked at the bank that was just the employee. And if I had gone to perhaps maybe a broker, everything would have been lined up
Sure.
and they would have gotten.
That's a great example.
And
Great
so then I
example.
had to pull back because I needed to get the vehicle and now I have to wait it out. So it's like this roller coaster ride of I just missed the opportunity. Now I have to wait.
And that can be very costly. You're talking about single family, we're talking about multifamily. And that's another example of why people want to go to the Fannie and Freddie agencies. This is a government entity and they're looking at the asset. If they own the asset, they're going to underwrite it as if they own it. And they're going to look at your personal financial statement and schedule of real estate. They're going to look at your FICO score, but 680 is, and I think it can go a little bit lower than that. It's not a huge number that you have to check box because they're looking at the asset. They're not looking necessarily at you and the power that you have to pay that back because we use a debt service coverage ratio so that the income coming in and revenue minus the expenses is great enough to cover over the mortgage. And so we put some insurances in there. And really, we just want to know that you know how to operate it. You've been doing this, you've been doing it for 2 years, and we don't need to go to a quote unquote committee that may kick it out at the 30 days. We're going to be able to hold your hand along the way, give you updates on what does the lender feel about this. But we're not going to give you an application unless we like the deal. Banks are going to be it's a longer process, and again, that's recourse. They're going to want to see all of your assets, all your collateral. There's a lot more nitpicking. People would say, oh, agency is a bunch of nitpickers. It is to a certain extent, but not personally like it is when it comes to bank financing.
So so I know that for taking on a lending application, it's 1 million or less or more for you, unless it's a bridge debt. Can you put the
Yeah,
qualifications
so
in for
that's
you?
really interesting. Yeah, so Old Capital starts at $1 million loan amount. That's on your bank, and agency starts at 1 million loan amount. So if we're talking about what kind of price you would want to pay on on an asset, you'd want to be about 1.4, 1.5, because we're going to come in about 70, 65, 70, and that gets you right to about your minimum of 1 million. Now, if there's an opportunity, and our lender who was doing loans below 1 million, they have actually closed up shop. They do not want to take on any more business actually in multifamily. They're just staying with single family. So I do have some lenders that will start at 1 million. So I can't go below 1 million. And a lot of the bridge loan lenders want to start at 3 million. I do have some that want to go a little bit lower, but not below 1 million. And in some cases, it's just really expensive to do a loan. You got, as you mentioned, it's expensive to work with a broker. You're going to pay your 1% origination and 1% success fee to the broker. On a $500,000 deal, that impacts it significantly. Not so much when it's a $10 million deal. Amortizing that over those units, it doesn't impact it as much as it would on a smaller deal. So for us, it's $1 million. If you got something smaller, in that case, I would go direct. I would. And you're going to have a bank wants you to be local to the asset. You want to live where within 100 miles of that asset when you're working with a bank. Agency doesn't have that critical eye to it, but yes, in a bank, they're going to look for local representation. So if you live in San Francisco and you're buying in Baton Rouge, you need to have boots on the ground, somebody who potentially would sign on the loan, but from a management position, is in the LLC that lives there and is managing it. As well as potentially a professional property management company.
That would have to be a general partner.
Yeah,
that would be signing on the loan or just part of?
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would just depend upon the lending agency then.
That's correct. And that's on the bank side.
That's on the bank side. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I always say, if you're not living in where you're buying, check with your local bank who you currently have a business with. Candace, you have business with that bank that you want to go to HELOC. There is a certain commitment that a lot of these banks want to keep their investors with them, their depositors. But they might not have a platform for lending in commercial. But I would start there. Start with your local relationships with the banks that you put your money in, your deposits, and say, hey, I'm looking at this asset. I don't live over in Baton Rouge, but I've been a longtime client of yours for 30 years. Would you be my partner on this deal? And they can say yes or no, or they have an affiliate that they could work with over there. There's all sorts of ways that they can do that. Again, that's going to be something where you're at $1 million or less. I think that's a great way to go.
All right. I can't believe that we have run out of time. We've actually gone a little over, which is great because this is such valuable information. I can't believe it. But I know that I was like, this is going to be really funny. But then when you start talking about like the seriousness of trying to get a loan, because it is not easy to do. And there's a lot of moving parts and you got to put all this stuff together and it's not easy for anyone. I don't know. Sometimes even though I'm a numbers person, sometimes it's okay. I can't deal with this anymore. I have to put this aside.
Because it's true.
It's a lot of demanding and different angles coming at it. I really appreciate it. That's right. That's right. That's why I give it to you.
That's right.
Let you do it. Let you do it.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to the listeners or share about? I'm going to have in the show notes how to get in touch with you, but if you wanted to add something else, please take this time to do so.
Yeah, I would just reiterate the Zoom at 8 is a great platform to come every Tuesday night, depending on where you're at. 8 o'clock Eastern. That allows us to get 5 o'clock in California. It hits all different types of subjects. So if you're new, we cradle you to help you find new partners, to help you become educated, to find opportunities. Maybe you're looking for a limited partnership. You're looking for something to invest in. You can find it here. We've been doing it for over 5 years. It's been amazing. So I invite everyone. You can find that at investments.com, and that'll be in the show notes. So yeah, I look forward to meeting your folks here. And if I can be of help, that's so important. I want to be able to offer that.
Great. Thank you so much, the First Lady in Lending, everyone. You've met her here on Genie in the Bottle.
Thank you so much.
So, thank you. And just remember I'm saying this to our guests, it sounds like I'm talking to you right now, Julie. But remember, you are your own genie in the bottle. And so do something today that your future self will thank you for. And I really appreciate everyone's time and listening. And thank you so much for your valuable information and expertise, Julie. Really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
The info in this podcast is straight from our personal experiences. You alone possess the power to manifest your desires. You are the genie in the bottle, awaiting your command. So ask smart questions. We're not licensed financial pros, so be sure to consult with a licensed professional, attorney, or tax consultant.